Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is our second episode of the Henry's Film Reviews channel. Finally, I'm sorry it took so long. Life of late has been a bit hectic, to say the least. Applying to law schools, retaking the LSAT, getting done with school, doing the officers program at Poly, finals as well. Shit, almost forgot about those. Things happen, is what I'm telling you. But I'm here. Oh, and another thing. I think I've finally fixed the audio problem. Thank you, viewers that pointed that out to me. It seems like the audio recorded in the last video was all on the left side of the headphones, and I think it was a software problem where the little audio mixer I use defaulted to stereo left or something. But as far as I'm aware, it's now fixed, so good to go there. Wasn't really feeling the heavy stuff today in terms of alcohol, and I didn't have any ice. I was going to do a bourbon this week, and I tend to like it on the... I got some of those spherical ice molds for Christmas, and I wanted to put one in there, but I forgot to fill them. So, instead, I have a delicious pint of Guinness, my favorite beer. Tasting notes include coffee, chocolate. It's got a lovely head. Beer as black as the night sky. That's my favorite. Joining us is also a delicious Sancho Plaza cigar. It's a Honduran cigar. Double Maduro, meaning it's an incredibly light sort of cigar, kind of an after dinner type thing, something you could have in the morning with your coffee if you were so inclined. Light tasting notes also of coffee, kind of a buttery smoothness, maybe a hazelnut, something like that, and a light oaky aftertaste, but not much. Mostly just going to be the coffee hazel sort of flavor. Really good stuff. And for a lower key alcohol, like Guinness, it's a perfect pairing. I'd drink and smoke this stuff every day if I could. But, thankfully I can't. I would die very swiftly. And I would be destitute as well. But it'd be worth it. So, as you likely gathered from the title of the video, tonight's episode is going to be a double feature, where I talk about the two movies made from, or that were adopted from Hunter S. Thompson novels. So that's Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas and Rum Diary. Actually, I can show you. I have a poster right there of the first movie we're going to talk about. That one right there. Come on, you son of a bitch. There we go. So, both of those movies are really a good time, in my opinion. I enjoy the both of them and have watched them both far too many times. They both star Johnny Depp as Hunter S. Thompson himself. And the one major interesting thing that these movies share is that they are woefully underrated. The two of them, at time of writing, are only rocking about a 50% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is just not fair, in my opinion. I don't think they deserve the treatment they've gotten. And Rotten Tomatoes wouldn't know their ass from a hole in the ground most of the time. In fact, they rated the new Star Wars, one of the new Star Wars movies, a 94. That's 2 points less than the fucking Godfather. So, that's a conversation for another day. I have an episode planned down the line where I'm going to talk about Star Wars, like all the Star Wars. And we will get good and worked up about the new series, don't you worry. But in any case, Rotten Tomatoes doesn't know what they're doing a lot of the time. However, I did peruse a couple of those reviews and saw that the majority of the criticism is that the books were better. So, and you know what? That is a common problem in the film industry, is competing with books. And one major question in film is, are movies even worth it? Because all the time you hear when you're making a film adaptation of a book, the book is always better. That's like the number one rule of thumb. And so I figured this is a great opportunity for me to address that, because I'm not sure I agree. I love a good book, and as you can tell by the title and purpose of this channel, I love a good movie as well. And I would argue that I am strongly in there's room enough in this world for both camp. Because I think that books and movies they offer two equally enjoyable experiences that are great for different reasons. So, books, in terms of raw density of detail, no contest. Books are going to take it every single time, because there's no upper limit in how long you can make a book. You can pour detail over dozens of pages, and in terms of fleshing out certain scenarios and characters and ideas, books are going to have that advantage every single time, because they cost less to make. Any swinging dick with a pen can put words on paper. Bam, book. And obviously, I'm simplifying it a bit. You need some serious talent, and I think that's why books are so impressive, because it requires a rare talent indeed to be able to create an effective image in your audience's head without actually showing them anything. That's difficult to do. That's very difficult to do. And it means that with words, kind of part of the fun with books is that you can fill in the gaps yourself. No two people will read the same book in exactly the same way. You know, they'll create different images of the characters in their head. They will fill in some gaps in different spots. They'll interpret the writing in different ways, and that's part of the benefit. So, yeah, in terms of straight detail, books have the advantage. And most will take that to mean, well, then books are better. But I'd just say books are different. Movies require quite a bit of talent to make work as well, just a different kind of talent. So, movies, you have to bring across a story, first of all, in a much more concise manner. You know, the again, they cost untold bajillions more to make. So directors and filmmakers and things are bound by what they can pay for. And that means that runtime restricts how much detail they can actually put on screen. And I've been outspoken about how I really like it when movies attempt to push that boundary. But it's especially interesting seeing how these filmmakers make that transition, how they're able to get a story into that smaller window where and the talent here is bringing across an idea or an exchange or a scenario or something quickly. So, you know, a character thinking about something, you know, a movie has to iterate what could normally in a book be done in over 3 or 4 pages or a whole chapter in one facial expression or one landscape shot, something like that, where you have to encapsulate all of this data, all of these words in one visual nugget, so to speak. And that's incredibly difficult to do. But when it's done right, which it isn't always, of course, it brings across why movies are worth it, which is, in my view, atmosphere. It doesn't have the advantage in what it can directly tell you, but movies have the advantage in atmosphere, what it can make its audience feel. The vibe of a movie is, to my mind, the most important aspect. It's incredibly difficult to pull off, and you can know instantly when it isn't there. When the vibe of a movie doesn't work, none of it works. And it's incredibly... It takes a lot of talent to make that happen. And that's why I think books and movies can share equal space in terms of quality of artistic expression. So then one major discussion that happens is, should you read that? That was my parents' policy for a long time when I was a kid, is before you watch a movie that is an adaptation of a book, read the book. Because, you know, it allows you to fill in those gaps, to interpret it, and the book is, and it's kind of it's a strategy based on the assumption that the book is better. Which is all well and good. But I would actually make the argument that that you should watch the movie before you read the book. Because if you read the book first, you will have exposed yourself to the vast quantities of detail that a book is able to provide. And then you will unconsciously be judging the movie on the merits of the book, which I don't think is fair, because again, a movie cannot have that much detail. There's just not enough time, not enough space. But if you watch the movie first, you judge the movie on its own merits, you enjoy it, you get the feel that the director intended. You absorb it and you enjoy it on its own. Then, if you really like the movie, you can go to the book and gain expansion on ideas or concepts that you enjoyed in the movie, albeit in smaller doses. And I think that is my strategy, generally. Now, I have not yet read the Hunter S. Thompson novels that became the movies I'm talking about today, though I do intend to. Because I'm told Hunter S. Thompson was one hell of a writer. Interesting fellow, Hunter S. Thompson. I believe he died at 63, and they found one of his personal journals that detailed his daily routine after he died. He'd wake up at noon. He'd do coke, smoke grass to cut off the edge. He'd drink all day, take a myriad of uppers and downers, do a little more coke, smoke a little more pot, and then he'd start writing at 3 a.m. So, he knew how to have a good time. And apparently, these movies are alleged autobiographies where he actually did a lot of the things he describes in these books. Nobody can verify it for sure because it's, both the movies are essentially extended benders that the author went on. And so we're not sure if his account of the events are 100% accurate or not. Nobody knows. But, real or not, the movies are a great time. First of all, we'll cover Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. That's probably the best known one, and the one I had the poster of. It was actually my Halloween costume last year. I went as Johnny Depp for that movie. So, setup is this. We have Johnny Depp as Hunter S. Thompson and Benicio del Toro playing his lawyer. And Hunter S. Thompson at the time, or at least in the setting of the movie, I believe it's supposed to be set in the late 60s, early 70s. And essentially, Hunter S. Thompson he's a writer for a newspaper, and he's going to Vegas to cover a race. And he brings his attorney along with him, and they bring literally a suitcase of every type of drug known to man. And they're just going to go down there and have a ball with it. And I'd say that, as was previously mentioned, if the general vibe, the overall flavor of a movie is the most important part of it, this movie's atmosphere is chaos. It is meant to feel like a grand cacophony. That is the idea behind it. It's supposed to be flashy, with a lot of noise and a lot of visual detail. It's supposed to just be an indecipherable tangle of nonsense. First time you take a liberal arts class, pretty much, it's absolutely crazy from start to finish, and little by little you start to piece it together. And it's a really good time. You leave this movie kind of feeling high yourself, is I think is sort of how it's supposed to go. Where, and you know that feeling, you get that secondhand emotional fingerprint from a lot of different movies. Like when you saw 300, Zack Snyder's 300 for the first time, and afterwards you kind of felt like you wanted nothing more than to die on the field of battle with your brothers in arms, right? Or when you saw The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and you found yourself reaching in vain for the tip of a, or for the brim of a cowboy hat to tip. Or, better yet, when you watched Ocean's 8 for the first time, and you wanted to shoot yourself in the fucking head. Same idea. You leave this movie feeling kind of high, frazzled, confused as to where you are, what time it is, that sort of thing. At least I did. And I think the biggest moment-to-moment strength of this movie is, again, probably dialogue. There's so many quotable moments in this movie. Incredible little lines that are just really funny. It's smartly written, obviously, and that I think that's its origin shining through. It's a movie about a great American writer, and it is well written, which is good to report, if not expected somewhat. But the on-screen chemistry of Benicio del Toro and Johnny Depp is really quite something. I think, besides maybe Jack Sparrow from Pirates of the Caribbean, this is the movie that Johnny Depp was made to make. Most everybody has seen Pirates of the Caribbean by this point, right? Like, I'm not crazy for thinking that. But you know that sort of floaty weirdness he had about him when he made that movie, and he just looked like he was almost about to pass out at any given moment, but he kind of just, he sort of fell forward and just kept progressing, and he had that hilarious wobbly disposition. I think that shit was perfect for this movie. And apparently, Johnny Depp actually spent quite a bit of time with Hunter S. Thompson before he died. And yeah, it was perfect casting, where Johnny Depp is able to just let loose with his ridiculous kind of high-strung, that weird high-pitched voice he has, and then he brings it real low, and it's, but then something freaks him out and he goes, ah! I don't know how to describe it, but he's got a sort of a flighty nature to him, and it just works perfect. It brings across the character as somebody that's into a world that they both understand and are incapable of handling. You know what I mean? And it's a lot of fun. Benicio del Toro is kind of a more muted presence in the movie. But he does a good job of being a backboard for Johnny Depp to do ridiculous things, and I respect that. The two of them work off each other really well, and it's them pretty much going on a drug-fueled odyssey of ridiculous set pieces, and there's a ton of visual detail, again, working towards that chaos I was talking about, where you have so many things going on screen. It's just lots of flashing lights and strange imagery, and you're kind of trying to decipher the whole thing while you're going through it. Which is why I would suggest, the the lazy thing to say about weird movies is, they were made on acid, or you have to watch them on acid, or no, I said that. No, some movies are meant to be watched on acid, but this one is, I think you gotta be stone cold sober to watch this one, and you're supposed to come out the other side feeling less so. It's a really great movie. I would say solid 8 out of 10. I'd totally watch it at least once. It can be a little depressing in some parts, and it'll definitely make you frazzled at first, and no doubt about it, an acquired taste, but I acquired it. Really good stuff, well written. On to its 2011 counterpart, The Rum Diary. I love this movie. It's one that most people don't really know about. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas is probably a name you've heard, if not watched the movie. Because it kind of gained even though it didn't do quite as hot reviews-wise, it kind of gained a cult following. Cult classic is the term. But Rum Diary kind of slipped under the radar because it's a little odd, it's a little more subtle, but a really good time. I loved this movie. It was apparently supposed to be Hunter S. Thompson earlier in his career, when he was a columnist for a small newspaper in Puerto Rico. And it's about him and this guy he meets getting drunk off their asses and sort of fumbling their way through kind of an industrial espionage conspiracy. Rum Diary possesses the advantage of a slightly more structured plot. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas isn't really so much about the story it's telling you. It's more about these two characters trying to accomplish a very simple task and going totally off the rails. But Rum Diary has there's a love interest. Here's the funny thing. Apparently, this movie is actually, I believe, where... No, that can't be right. I'm looking this up. But it was Johnny Depp, and the love interest is played by Amber Heard, of all people, before that whole thing happened. And I think they might have actually met on the set of this movie. I could be wrong about that. Don't quote me. But I think it's possible. And in any case, it's a lot of fun. The humor is not quite as... Fear and Loathing could be almost slapstick in certain parts, where the humor is just how ridiculous everything is getting, and how how crazy these guys are in public places. Where there's a sequence in Fear and Loathing where you have like Benicio del Toro and Johnny Depp having a bad ether trip. Like they're passing each other like a soaked rag and just and then they go into like a carnival or something and start acting like absolute buffoons. And there's less of that in the Rum Diary. It's more commentary on Puerto Rico itself and the ridiculousness of like the kind of post-colonialism tourist nonsense that happens there. It's sort of hard to explain from the outset, but it's really good stuff. Again, incredibly well written. I think that the chemistry between the main characters again makes a show-stopping appearance, where both. God, what was this guy's name? I'm looking it up again. Michael Rispoli hasn't been in all that much else. This was certainly his biggest movie, but he was a lot of fun. His character was kind of a kindred spirit, sort of freeloader type, who kind of knows the ins and outs of the system and sort of teaches Johnny Depp, the new guy in town, the ropes, is kind of the idea. And the two of them bouncing off each other is really high quality. And they're working their way through sort of a conspiracy where these guys are trying to acquire some land quasi-illegally, and they're trying to use Hunter S. Thompson's writing to help them do it. Meanwhile, Hunter S. Thompson is kind of coming to grips with the fact that he is a balls-to-the-wall alcoholic. And again, the subtlety of it makes it probably less of a crowd pleaser. I think everybody can have a laugh at Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, because it is, again, just so nonsense. But it is really high quality. This one takes a little bit more effort, but if you really sink your teeth into this one, you'll find it's a good time. Johnny Depp also perfectly cast here. He brings across a lot of that same flavor of flighty weirdness, but with more muted dialogue. Like you have Giovanni Ribisi plays sort of a side character who's even drunker than anybody else, and which is saying something, by the way. But he has him check. He has Johnny Depp's character check him for a venereal disease, and he says, "Is it the clap?" And Johnny Depp says, "A standing ovation." It's just little stuff like that. But another really great movie. I think, in a comparison between the two, I'd say Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas is probably more interesting. at least a little bit more original. Rum Diary has a couple of plot tangents that don't really go anyplace. And, that can be, I can sort of take or leave that. But I'd probably give this one like I'd probably say Rum Diary is a strong 7 out of 10. Yeah. Strong 7. Again, acquired taste, even a hair more so than Fear and Loathing. But really solid stuff. This is really good stuff. And I think that is it. That is episode 2, folks. Thank you as always for watching the channel. I think we got to like 70 or 80 views last time, which was kind of neat. I don't give a shit, again, if you subscribe or like or whatever, but please do keep giving me requests and things. I'm going to try and do more of these lengthier episodes. Coming up, I'll probably do a quick series on, or maybe just, since these videos have been so far, they've been spaced so far apart, I might decide to just do like wait a couple of weeks and do one big episode, and you can watch it over a couple days or whatever, because it'll probably be an hour long or so. But I'd like to do a lengthier episode on Star Wars, including all the movies, the shows, and analogizing it with some other works that I think have influenced how I think Star Wars movies could look. And then I'd also like to do a quick series on Denis Villeneuve, because he's just a fucking incredible director, and he's done so much for the film industry. But yeah, I think that's it. Keep giving me recommendations. If you have anything you'd like to see in the channel, some a greater deal of one thing or another. I know. I know my sergeant, after seeing the last episode that was sort of kind of dedicated to him, he said, less drinking and smoking, get more to the review. And I said, all right, I will. So I tried to be a little bit more on point. And these videos will get more and more focused as I kind of get in the groove of this. But I'm still coming to grips with how YouTube works and filling the time and stuff like that. So bear with me. But anyway, to summarize, we have strong 8 out of 10 for Fear and Loathing, strong 7 out of 10 for Rum Diary. Both excellent, but Rum Diary is probably a bit more of an acquired taste, and its subtlety lends it to be a more muted experience. So still fun, don't get me wrong. Both of them are really funny. Give them a whirl. And that's all from me. Have a good rest of your evening, and I will see you next time.